Keep your hands and head inside the vehicle at all times. Buckle your seatbelts, check your mirrors, sit on back and relax. It's lights out and away we go for the Tall and Short of It podcast. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast, coming to you live from Neo Tokyo. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. We've got a great episode again this week. We've got some quick hitters, as always, some Formula One talk leading up into Baku, League of Legends, and the mid-season invitational coming up, CSGO's IEM Rio, and, of course, some Magic the Gathering. And it is good to see you, Justin. We've got a lot to dig into this evening.
Good to see you too. Got a race hang in the books planned. Now I'm excited, looking forward to that. But maybe not nearly as excited as I am for this race coming up this weekend. It's been a long drought in between, my friend. But you're like a cool drink of water here this week. Give me your Rose, Thorn, and Sea. What you got going on here?
Sounds good. So my Rose was this weekend was just a lot of fun. On Saturday in the morning, we went and checked out a new dog park bar place that opened up in nearby. So it's a dog park. Like, they have no toys out for the dogs. They don't allow treats, no dogs on leashes, to kind of eliminate the main causes of dogs to be stressed out and unhappy. The leash aggression, fighting over food and resources, fighting over toys and whatnot. So we were there and it was fantastic. There were 20 dogs running around, none of them getting in fights or getting into anything, no issues, the occasional Humper, but outside of that,
hell yeah.
They have employees going around who clean up, pick up after the dogs and stuff if they go to the bathroom on the turf. They had have a bar, coffee, all sorts of stuff. So we're there in the morning, just hanging out, letting Senna run around, be a goofball. She kept just sitting in front of other families that were just hanging there. She would just sit in front of a random family and just chill there for a bit. And we're
that's neat though.
It was, but we're she's gonna go home with someone else on accident.
Sure, yeah.
But it was funny. It was a cool experience. And then I did some rock climbing that afternoon with some of my friends. So just at the climbing gym they go to. But it's a lot of fun. It kills my body afterwards, my arms and back and fingers and just all are always pretty sore. But it's fun. And then on Sunday, we checked out a food truck festival here nearby. Ended up going through, so I'll talk about that a little bit with my flavor of the week.
Nice.
But yeah, so that was my Rose. It was an active but fun-filled weekend, and cool to go to this dog park. It's a membership, paid place, so we're looking at doing a monthly thing, depending on how busy we are, to get sent out socializing.
Sure, dude, that's really cool. Having a social planner for your pup is such a modern thing to be had. That's super cool.
I think it's one of the things that we realized was nice was we can go and she can get all this energy out. Even if we are tired, we can just go and hang and sit in chairs and just kind of watch her do her thing. And she had some dog buddies that she had, my friends' dogs that were there too and everything to
nice.
Keep her preoccupied. But it was pretty cool to check out. So I'm looking forward to doing that periodically.
Yeah, it sounds really neat.
Yeah, but my thorn this week is that it's kind of a double-edged sword. It goes with my seed, but I have a short week this week of work because I'm going to be out of town tomorrow through the weekend, but that just meant that I had to make sure I had all my ducks in a row and really crammed more than 3 days work into those 3 days. And especially I ended up having three move-ins, one tomorrow, one Friday, one Saturday, that I had to prep all the things and information and whatnot for and hand off to my team to actually like get these people their keys and moved in and all. So I was just stressful. It was I worked slightly later than normal today just to make sure I had everything in order and all. But with that, for this weekend, I'm going up to my buddy's bachelor party up in New York. So it'll be a fun weekend getting to hang out with him and just enjoy and celebrate his upcoming wedding and all. So should be a good time.
Yeah, that's super exciting, man, and congratulations, congratulations to your friend on the wedding. That's super cool.
Yeah, should be fun. There will be lots of weddings coming up, but this is one of the first this year. It'll be just in a little over a month, so looking forward to
Nice.
that. But that's my rose, thorn, and seed for this week.
Very cool, man. Sounds like you got a lot of good stuff on the books. Yeah, I'm excited to hear it for you. That's neat. My rose here, very simply, I'm just very excited to be back in a race week, I guess you would say. Looking ahead to having a race on the weekend, maybe a better way to say that. But yeah, it's just been so long, and I think it'll be fun to have a lot more racing as well. Because isn't Baku? Don't we have a sprint on Saturday as well?
Yes, so
Hell yeah!
we'll definitely. That's one of the things I want to get into a little bit. The
Sure.
sprint format's going to be a little different this week.
Hmm.
But yeah, so we'll have two race opportunities at a pretty cool track. So I'm looking forward to it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's just gonna be great. My thorn here is right from today. We had a I would say a like minor miscommunication that left me like almost feeling like I was having a heart attack in the moment, in the sense of like I was so fearful that this guy was not kidding. He made a joke after the massage where he's like, man, that was so good. I feel so relaxed. And like with pretty much a dead like a straight face, he was like, I think your clocks are broken. And me and Sarah both are like, oh no, like did we like cut them on time? Was it supposed to be 90 but we did 60?
Oh
Like
man.
we were like legit afraid that like we did something wrong. Like both of us were like, oh no, 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 please. And then he's like, yeah, yeah, because that was it ended so fast. That was great. And he had to like prompt us with the joke, and both of us were just like, "Ooh, man, just so relieved that this guy was kidding." But man, like we were
that
super afraid.
that is so concerning too, especially like in yeah, that's and it's funny because on my end, like I had a mini moment like that today. Um I was setting up an apartment like for a move-in and everything, making sure everything is good. And I look at the clocks and the one says like 12:38 or something like that. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, it's only 12:38." Then I like check my phone and the clock hadn't been reset for daylight saving, so it was actually
Mm.
1:38. And I was like, "Oh my god, I have so much stuff to still do." And I just lost an hour sort of in my brain.
Sure.
So yeah, no, I'd be have a similar reaction if I were in your position.
Very much. So yeah, happy that he let us in on the joke there, and kind of saved us from that panic and embarrassment. So more, more funny than anything. But yeah, that was as close I've come to a panic attack, or like a heart attack so far. And then my seed here this week, I know I've talked about having making improvements at the office. We went to Best Buy, perused around, saw kind of what our options are, and met with like all right, so like what route do we go? Asked a couple of questions. The guy was like, honestly, here's the best thing that you do. So we have an in-office consultation set up where they're going to come in, take a look at our setup, and recommend a strategy, and then could help do the install as well. So while we may not like move forward in that route, I think it'll still be cool to just get way more information, especially
Yeah.
where like my knowledge about it, it's actually very limited. When I was presented with all the options, it's like, oh, okay, we've got a lot to consider here. So I think having somebody walk through it with us is going to be super strong.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And I mean, it also gives you ideas for what you could do, what you might like. It like opens more doors once you see what like the options are
Right.
for that and everything and reworking the space. So
Yeah, because something one of the guys said there was like, yeah, I could sell you all of this stuff, but like you would get it home and be like, okay, well, what do I do with it now? Like, how do I set this up?
yeah.
And that was a super fair point. So
Also,
I was
good
happy that we
salesman to not just be like, yeah, but this is all the stuff you need and just send you home with it to be like, okay.
Sure. Well, and then on top of it, like it probably just from like a sales strategy, it yes, it pushes the sale to, let's say, like next week or whatever, but we may be inclined to spend way more money with them, right?
Yeah. Or to just like work with them instead of being like, oh, I'm going to go and like see how much these things are somewhere else kind of thing. So,
Right, right. So yeah, I thought it was just a useful opportunity there. So we're gonna run with that on Saturday and look forward to just seeing what our options are. But yeah,
nice.
that's my rose, thorn, and seed for the week, dude.
Solid. I'm looking to hear how that goes. I'm sure it'll be enlightening to have them out to kind of work with you on it. But moving over into some of the quick hitters for today's episode. So, first one I got, there was another Drake AI song that came out that I heard on TikTok this week.
Give me the
And
album.
man, let me tell you. So, okay, first off, it sounds exactly like it could be him. It
Of
like
course.
it's impossible to tell the difference practically. And you know what that made me think? That made me feel. It made me feel validated. Validated that of all these years of shit talking Drake and telling and saying on this podcast and to anyone who will bend an ear when his name comes up that all of his music is generic, it sounds the same. You could pick a bunch of songs from all different albums, slap them together, and you wouldn't be able to tell that it's not from the same album. And an AI has figured out how to do it in no time and create music that sounds like it could just be his same, just like poppy, what like music that he puts out that
Mm-hmm.
all sounds the same. And
Mm-hmm.
so that made me feel very validated that I am right, that Drake sucks because an AI can make music that's just as good as his.
Yeah, and that's like the fear. That's like the overarching fear. That's part of what like this writer strike is about. Is like we used to think that that musical product that these artists is like it can only come from them. Like they do it so no, man. Like it can be reproduced and just created very quickly.
You were right about a big part of that, though, is that the AI has to have something to base the music off of.
Sure.
So there does still have to be like real artists creating and making music for the AI to like follow the changing times of music and everything because it won't be able to, I feel like, necessarily create a new direction for or new style for a genre to go into or something, how music has just changed over time without
Hmm.
actual musicians changing it because it's basing all of its knowledge off of previously created things.
Is that not what musicians are doing? Just like
Yeah, but
reinterpolating old styles, kind of making it old. Like, don't you think there would be enough of a catalog of just sound in general on these I forget what they're called, the information frameworks that
like
they like
servers
the
and
like the reference libraries that they have the
yeah.
AI like running off of. I bet they could do it for years, like years.
Yeah, but
You're saying it wouldn't evolve, it would just be like rehashes of what is already kind of in the
right,
zeitgeist.
which there is
Fair.
plenty of in like new music anyway. There are people who like listen to so and so when they were growing up, so that's one of their I mean Logic in a bunch of his albums, it has the computer voice, I can't remember her name. Talking about how like the influences for his music and like
Mm-hmm.
Kanye and Quentin Tarantino and this and that and all going through, like yeah, artists base their music off of things, and so
Mm-hmm.
does AI. But when the human value of it is the uniqueness, and so someone like I couldn't say that. I don't think I could say that 10 years ago an AI would have created Billie Eilish style music. Billie Eilish is very unique. She has a unique style, a unique like
Mm.
singing pattern. Her voice is so unique. Like it wouldn't have been able to create that uniqueness from previous music because she and her brother who write the music and everything developed that whole style kind of on their own. And I'm sure you could
Well,
find similar things or interests, but I think like the vocal ranges that people have and things like that like create a unique because there are limits to that person's vocal abilities. So that kind of can push them to do things a certain way as
hmm.
opposed to an AI where the possibilities are endless, but that maybe means it's not as unique or there's not as like the changing of style. So that's it I'm really intrigued by it. It's like a rabbit hole that I've started to like dip my toes in with this AI stuff because I'm just it blows my mind a bit. So I could probably jabber on for a while about it, but
But yeah, back to your original point. Nothing original about Drake's music, and it just like doesn't sound any different,
no.
except for what is it? I'm pretty sure it's "What a Time to Be Alive." No, what's the white album
It's the
cover with
one
the
with it's
black letters?
oh if you're hearing this it's too late, I think.
That's
Or if
it.
you're reading this it's too late.
Yes,
And I would also say the
that's the best. That's the best one.
What a Time to Be Alive though
With
being
Future.
with Future is the album as a whole of Drake's that I've probably enjoyed the most
Okay,
personally. But
sure.
I think that just worked very well. But staying in the music vein a little bit for this next one, over this long break that we had, I think F1 Twitter and just Twitter in general was a little bored without the F1 drama going on. So there were a bunch of tweets and things that I saw that basically were saying that Fernando Alonso and Taylor Swift were now dating after her recent breakup. She recently announced that she had broken up with her boyfriend, and
Damn.
somehow Fernando Alonso's name got thrown into the mix, and this like grew very quickly. Like I think it was probably a joke from someone who's bored, who's an F1 fan, and then it got grabbed hold a little bit in the Taylor Swift like Twitter sphere to the point that Fernando actually posted a TikTok with a Taylor Swift song in the background and everything, and like, he
The lore
said
gets deeper.
he said it was his on the TikTok. He said it was his race week era, which all the Taylor Swift eras is the big thing. So he like fed into it, which I find it so funny how much of a troll he is. Like last year when he signed with Aston Martin and then just pieced out for like 2 weeks on vacation because there was the summer break where he was just like dropped it and then posted a picture of him like on an island or something like that, being like,
Damn.
see you when we're back, guys.
That's sick.
So I think Fernando is hilarious, but I found it amusing that Colleen's world of loving Taylor Swift and everything, and then Fernando Alonso. I was sending her every tweet and everything that I saw all week about it. I'm like, oh, I think it's real. I think it's real. So
Hell yeah.
I whoever started that on Twitter, I got some nice entertainment out of that. So I appreciate you.
Damn, and maybe the false flag flying actually gets Fernando and Taylor to be like, hey, maybe we do. You want to go out for, coffee or whatever?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
That would be. I think it would be hilarious. So I hope that it continues and people keep talking about it. But switching over to some more like or less silly F1 topics. The F1 Academy first race week is this weekend, I believe. And so this is what the W Series kind of morphed into for up-and-coming women for Formula One. And it is very disappointing because apparently they are not they're not going to have video of it anywhere. Like, they're not broadcasting it. They like talked about it a bunch in the F1 Academy, and we're like creating this new series for women to get into racing and whatnot. And then they're just like, we couldn't find like hardly anything about when it was starting or where it was going to be or anything like a week and a half ago. And then we're going to have the race, and all they'll have is live timings that you can, like a page that you can just see, like,
who's in the lead.
Yeah. And so it's kind of disappointing. Like, I understand if it's not going to be on ESPN, if they're not going to have it on Sky Sports. I pay for the F1 app. Like, just throw it on there. You've got F3 and F2 on there. If you're really trying to promote the series and everything, like, throw it on there. I probably wouldn't have watched it depending on what, because I assume that it's not going to be in a great time for most people to watch because those primetime slots are held for F2, F3, F1. So I get that maybe I couldn't have seen it, but like I could go back and watch it or check out highlights or something. So I hope that they put out some content afterwards, but it's a disappointing start to this new series that they're creating this year.
That's an interesting strategy. When you were talking about this, the ideas that were coming up were like, well, maybe they're like hedging financial bets where they're trying not to like sink way too much into it where it like kind of goes under and then they have to rebrand again and blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're doing their best to understand its current reach and then develop it where it's actually sustainable and they haven't like kind of overshot their expectations and have to like, oh, we gotta rein it back in. Maybe like this is them reining it back in. So while unfortunate that you're not going to be able to like, get the VOD or watch it live, hopefully there's enough interest for people going to the track and hitting the live timing page where they do want to bring video of it.
I mean, that would be a great way for it to work out. I think it's easier to go in the reverse a little bit though, to like actually have a broadcast, even if it's not like, hey, don't have commentators. You just have, I don't know, like a few cameras around the, like, it probably could be done on a pretty small scale. You have like, I don't know, a crew of 50 people who work for an extra 3-4 hours to do a quick broadcast of the race. I mean, some of the old F1 races that are on the F1 app or F1 TV app don't have commentary because there wasn't commentary when these races were recorded back in the like 70s, 80s, and whatnot for some of those races. Like, hey, don't do it. Someone, I don't know, someone can co-cast it on YouTube or something like that. Or like,
Sure.
it just seems weird. And I think to have a broadcast and say, okay, this is how many people watched it, as opposed to like hoping to determine how many people are interested based on like clicks to the website, I think is like, I doubt most people will be like clicking and refreshing that live timing page, as opposed to like maybe just afterwards like going to the F1 Academy results page and going, oh, like who won this race. But if you, I think it's easier to, yeah, like scale it down than to like try and scale it up proportionally to interest, if that makes sense.
That's my argument, is that this is the scale back. Was it not like on TV before
Well,
as the W series?
I think it was, but it was not.
Do you see what I'm saying?
But it wasn't like under F1's brand. Like as the W series, that was I'm pretty sure run by like an outside, like I'm pretty sure it was not run by like Formula One. Like it may have been an FIA, like sanctioned thing, but
Yeah, that's fine. But if the FIA is now in charge of it, it would make sense for them to look at like what didn't really work, the interest that wasn't there, and say like, okay, well, it did not pay the time on, screen didn't pay for the ads or whatever, so we're just not going to go that route yet until maybe they can like build it grassroots. That's what I'm saying, is like the broadcast already didn't work for whatever company was hosting it.
Yeah, so I mean, I do get that to some extent. I would just imagine with the facilities and like all that F1 has already as a organization and everything, that they could probably do it on at a lower like cost per event than like the W series was to try and like broadcast. Like F1 TV has their own app that they can post it to and everything. They're not like having to buy rights to, and like I said, hey, don't show it on ESPN, don't pay Sky Sports to broadcast it or have that part of the deal. Stream it live on YouTube from the Formula One YouTube page. Like, it doesn't have to be
F1.
It just doesn't have to be like a huge cost necessarily. And I think F1 has all the things in place to like reduce the cost. Like the cameras and everything's already ready this weekend. It's there. It's like good to go. So
no, hey, I would tend to agree with you. I just was offering the
oh yeah, no, I'm
just another angle.
I just it's strange to like announce that you're doing this thing and that like act like it's a big like, yes, F1, we are doing this, to put it out there and then not put it out there. It's just it's a bit bizarre.
Sure. Yeah, I would tend to agree.
Yeah. So another big thing during this long break, though, that came up was Franz Tost of AlphaTauri, their team principal, announced that he'll be stepping down at the end of the year. Ferrari's assistant team principal, Laurent Mekies, is going to join AlphaTauri as their team principal. Apparently, there's interest in Mekies from Alpine as well to come join their organization, but due to the contract with Ferrari, they didn't. I think they didn't allow him to leave the contract for Alpine since they are a higher competitor on the grid at this point. So, pretty big change up. Franz Tost he's an older guy. I'm imagining he's just going to retire and kind of maybe consult here and there. But that'll be a shake-up with AlphaTauri, who also, over the break, apparently, what Red Bull was getting a number of offers to buy the AlphaTauri team, including some offers that went up to about $800 million that were declined. So as of right now, AlphaTauri is going to not be for sale for the F1 slot. I'm very curious who was offering $800 million for that spot, though.
So you're saying Red Bull currently owns that AlphaTauri slot?
Yes, I think they technically own the slot, but it's run by a separate organization, kind of like the Alfa Romeo Sauber slot. Like Sauber owns that Alfa Romeo slot, but Alfa Romeo is the organization, or like Alfa Romeo's F1 team is the organization that drives in the slot.
Right.
So I think that's how it technically breaks down.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I just was momentarily confused at the because they're referred to as like the sister team, obviously.
Right.
Gotcha. So there is another organization offering that kind of capital for that slot.
Yeah. So
Whoa.
that's a big number. I mean, it could be Andretti, it could be one of these other, it could be someone completely new to F1 or Audi, Porsche, one of the, who knows, but definitely an interesting kind of thing to come up, especially that Red Bull is not looking to sell the team. I think that it does speak a lot to the partnership in terms of drivers that they have and everything, in terms of the kind of farm system, as it were, and then of course the new agreement with AlphaTauri buying some parts from Red Bull. I think they are looking at it like, as business people, they're pretty content, I think, with the symbiotic relationship that they have, and maybe aren't excited about inviting someone new to the grid who might shake that up. So
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Where we were talking about that last week with the looking to buy. What would that be called? Red Bull being the works team, and then AlphaTauri just being just like a customer of parts. Gotcha.
Yeah, like a buyer, I guess. Like I don't know what they. Yeah, I guess a customer.
I feel like, I guess I'm having the sense that there's like an actual term for it, but maybe
there
it's
might
not that
be.
specific.
I feel like it's eluding me. I agree. I feel like there is something that they've coined it.
Somewhere somebody out there knows. That is not for us to know, though.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll be.
Maybe one day we'll be old enough to
the curtain
learn.
will be pulled back. But another quick hitter, but Gunter Steiner said he doesn't imagine, so if Lewis doesn't get re-signed with Mercedes at any point, he doesn't imagine any of the other top three teams looking to sign him at this point. So whether that's Red Bull, Ferrari, or Aston Martin, I think it makes sense. They all have pretty solid seeming drivers lineups. Like, I don't see anywhere, and that's what we had kind of talked about, that we didn't really see a spot for him to go. But another person looking to not stay on the grid but rejoin, Nikita Mazepin is looking to try and get back into Formula One, and is actually taking the legal course to try and basically say that the ban of Russian drivers that was put in place at the start of the Russia-Ukraine conflict going on and everything was illegal, I think he's trying to say, so that
Gotcha.
he can be unbanned and have the opportunity back to find his way back in F1. I just also don't know who would take him on as a driver.
Neither do
So I don't think it'll amount to anything. But Dan Ticktum, one of the former Red Bull Junior drivers who is driving in Formula E, he had come out this week and said that he thinks there's a few F1 drivers who shouldn't be on the grid and a number of Formula E drivers he thinks that should be there instead.
Hot take.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's worth considering, but it's also not like it's not like that abnormal for drivers to like bounce around. Like Albon went to Formula E when he didn't have a seat in F1 and then came back. Stoffel Van Dorn drives for Mercedes Formula E team and is their reserve driver. What's the other? Antonio Giovinazzi went right from F1 to Formula E and was still drove in the AlphaTauri testing slots last year, that there are the required FP1 testing that you give to another driver or whatever. So I don't think it's that abnormal, but I also don't personally feel that there's any driver that after 3 races, I would say I can definitively say shouldn't be on the grid.
I can see that. I can see that point of view. It is the min-max objective. If you were to put them all in the same car on the same track, this guy believes that a couple of these Formula E drivers would just 1-to-1 outperform select, for Formula One drivers. Whatever, man, fine. But there are so many other factors to getting a seat, and I'm not even playing favorites to any of the Formula One drivers. I'm just saying that's just that feels like a nothing burger of a take, where it's there's skilled people everywhere, and I imagine if you give these people that opportunity, they'd excel. I imagine if you give these people that opportunity, they'd excel.
It's there's a finite amount of positions, so we're saying, we think these IndyCar drivers could do well in F1. We think these Formula E drivers could do well in F1. Well, there's a lot of drivers in F1 that do well in F1, and so there is a finite limit to it. So yeah, that's a good point, that it is kind of a bit of a silly take, like, oh, these guys that play really good basketball in Europe could probably play really good basketball in the NBA too. It's like, well, yeah, they just either haven't gotten the opportunity or like chose to drive in Europe or to play basketball in
Right.
Europe. Like,
Right. And it's spoken with the connotation as though like they're they're somehow like a victim in this scenario. Like, oh, dude, these Formula E drivers, like, there's a couple of F1 drivers that they beat out, you know? It's like they've been like
yeah,
wrongfully placed in Formula E. God forbid you get to drive single seaters still.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, bro.
right. And like, if those drivers are good enough to be F1 drivers, then hey, maybe they should be targeting reserve driver positions or sim racing positions for those for F1 teams.
Right.
And then if maybe they'll get the opportunity if they're just smoking, like if you're like reserve driver is smoking one of your main drivers on the sim in like comparable times and everything, then like, yeah, that would be a reason. But we're never gonna get all the drivers in the same car on the same day in the same track conditions, like
Right.
ever, to be like, okay, here's the official like power rankings of these drivers. Like,
Right.
it's just not possible. So yeah, it's an interesting thought, but yeah, I think like you said, nothing burger is probably a pretty good word for it.
Hey, yo, I've got no hate for Dan Tickdom. That's just like a funny take.
Yeah, it's
That's
absolutely
all.
no, not trashing him or anything. But there were a number of reports, and this is like something obviously that has been talked about across the grid, I think this year and last year.
Okay.
But there is a lot of Carlos Sainz hate going around. In terms of there's a number of people that are saying he is unperforming, that Ferrari's is going to or is getting tired of him. I don't think that there's any, like, I saw this from a number of places over the past week, that Carlos Sainz is underperforming and Carlos Sainz is like Ferrari, he's not meeting up to the expectations and everything. And I'm like,
Underperforming who?
yeah.
Charles Leclerc with 6 points. Who's he?
Yeah,
Like, that's what I'm
like,
saying, bro. He's literally in 5th.
It's crazy. And also, the Ferrari is clearly not reliable and like not the fastest car on the grid. Like, I don't know what, like, Carlos drove pretty well last year and pretty consistently. Like, he wasn't
He got his first win last year.
Yeah,
Like underperforming what? If anything, he's like on the rise in a shitty car.
yeah, like it was bizarre.
He looks like a
to
villain
me.
though. That's the problem. He looks like a villain.
Maybe that's, I don't know what it is, or maybe it's just everyone's like just love of Leclerc that they're like, well, there are so many people in the world. We've seen it over the years with like Formula One critics and like people with opinions that like they struggle to like talk up one person without comparing them and putting down another person. Like, I remember every time a new female like caster or interviewer or anything came on to the LCS or the LEC or anything, everyone's like, well, they suck compared to Shocks. Why would this is, oh, what is this, Shocks Light or whatever? And it's like, No, they're just like a new person. Like you can criticize and say, oh well, like I wasn't a big fan of their delivery at certain moments. They seemed like they were a bit flustered when they got thrown off their game. They need some more time of like you can critically say like I didn't like X, Y, and Z because they X, Y, and Z without going, well, this person does it better. And so I feel like
Sure.
that comparison to Leclerc is negative to Sainz just because Leclerc is a more beloved member of Ferrari because he's been there longer and he's like supposed to be this golden child. So, of course, Sainz is going to get more hate than Leclerc would, but I don't think by any means he's underperforming.
No, yeah, I just think that's categorically not right. If he was at the bottom of the grid, maybe currently, I would argue like, yeah, maybe he's underperforming. But no, I don't think he's having a problem at all. Like, especially like you look at the drivers that are close to him. George with 18 points, Lance with 20 points as well. Yeah, Lewis is, he's got like almost double the amount of points that Carlos has, but no one's ever compared Carlos to Lewis. I mean, I just think it's important that he is like outperforming his teammate in this scenario. Yeah, I would imagine those are just like uh, stands in some way and not looking at all the data. They're just maybe looking at the driver, ignoring the fact that Ferraris have literally exploded on the track, and just saying that it's like it's all the driver's fault. It's all Carlos Sainz just being a villain. I
Yeah.
just don't think that's like true.
I completely agree. I just think it was weird. And even Helmut Marko came out. And I mean, I know he is someone that most people don't trust with what he says, but he said, why should Ferrari part ways with Carlos? That doesn't make sense. Carlos is doing a good job. Ferrari has other problems than thinking of signs. And that's where I'm at too. I'm like,
Yeah,
he's
I think
a
that sums it up.
solid, consistent driver. Your car has reliability issues, tire wear issues. Like, even Leclerc, who is like was competing early in the season last year for the drivers championship, is struggling very hard right now. Like, there's way bigger issues than signs.
Yeah, I would
And, I,
agree.
and to even say he's an issue, I disagree with. But one technical note that came out this week, there was a inspection of Max's car after the Australian Grand Prix. So it was randomly chosen among the top 10 cars for a more extensive physical inspection. I'm sure that this happens like every single race. There's a car that's picked.
Sure.
But they inspected the front and rear suspension, front and rear inboard suspension, all of the dampers, sensors, all of that jazz, and found that everything is in accordance with the 2023 F1 regulations. So, not that I didn't expect them to be, but I've seen a lot of the teams trying to figure out how the Red Bull is riding so low. We talked about how their rake last year was the highest on the grid in terms of the angle, and now they are the lowest practically like on the ground at like all times. And it's something that's helped them a lot with the aero of the car. So interesting, and like I was curious when I saw that this came out. I like it's only like 5 sentences long, but I was like, oh, I want to read this and see, because there are things like the DOS system that Mercedes had, and everything that are like not in breach of technical regulations, but in a gray area. And from this report, it seems like everything is just like, yep, everything's good. Everything meets meets the requirements. So, very impressive from the Red Bull team with the car like that they've been able to put out there this year. It's kind of wild how big of a shift they took in terms of some of their aero and everything this past year, and are still starting out so strong
Hmm.
into this season.
Well, and it's good look for them too, especially where it seems like they're under increased scrutiny after the, budget cap shenanigans and all that. So it's good that they can get kind of a vote of confidence from the FIA scrutineers, to say like, yeah, everything's above board here. To If that was called like, if unwanted eyes on their vehicle was a problem, this should help to alleviate that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Hmm.
So that is definitely interesting, and we'll see how that. I think with, like we talked about, AlphaTauri starting to buy the suspension, front
Hmm.
suspension components and all. That could be something that, if they're doing this so successfully, meeting all the regulations and all, will look really good for them in that partnership as well. And then one last little tidbit before we get into the Grand Prix coming up at Baku. But Otmar Zafnauer from Alpine, he thinks that Alpine still has a shot to contend for second place this year. In the constructors' standings, he thinks that they have the potential to make some pretty big leaps and bounds, similar to what Aston Martin has done, and essentially said that the if you're competing with the top or with the second, third, and fourth place teams at the moment, Aston Martin, Mercedes, and Ferrari, there is easily potential for them to kind of scoot in there and fight for. He feels like all of them are at a similar playing field. So with some upgrades and improvements, he said 3 to 4 tenths of a second, then they can be competing. I mean, that's a huge improvement. But I also have no idea what kind of upgrades and plans they have in place, what they're seeing with their data, for any packages that they're bringing on. And
Hmm.
I mean, they're at 8 points. They're in sixth in the constructors right now. But if they had not had their fiasco last race at the Australian Grand Prix, they would be not far behind Ferrari there, who is currently in fourth place. That I think they would have been, I don't know, maybe 10 points back from Ferrari or so. So I mean, it's not unreasonable, but I feel like maybe they can fight for third more than fighting for second. I feel like Aston Martin has been far and away like the second best team so far this season,
Hmm.
with especially how well Fernando's driven, how
Hmm.
well Lance is driven after injuries and everything, in the off season. So I have trouble imagining that big of a stretch for Alpine.
I don't know, man. Well, yeah,
It's still so
that,
early in the season though, so there is a
yeah, I think that was going to be my thought.
sorry.
No, no, that's fine. But you're just overall right, where it's like it's too early to tell, but it does feel like, based on the performance of the teams that you mentioned, bro, even if they're right, that like they would have to do something pretty incredible each weekend and have other teams like run into like big blunders. I think for that to be a case, because it seems like the teams that would be above them are going to be like pretty darn competitive. The one thing you can look at though is like the qualifying pace. Like, dude, each of these weekends, 1 through 12, has been within, I think it's like a second of each other, if not
Yeah.
like point 0.9, point 0.8. So those are insane margins to try and be like eking out advantages in. Man, yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, I think it would be too big a jump, just because I know that these teams, it's easy as a team principal, I feel like, to make the mistake of going, oh, I know what improvements we have in store. That's going to get us a 10th here, a 10th there, whatever. But like you have to consider that the other teams are also going to be making improvements at the same time as you. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
always something that needs to be in consideration when it comes to this. You just don't everyone else doesn't stay still while you keep on like improving your car.
Sure.
So I think that's the other side of that too. Um, but yeah, that kind of wraps out the quick hitters, long hitters this week for leading up to the Grand Prix here in Azerbaijan at Baku.
Yeah, but I think it's all stuff worthwhile talking about. It's the topics that are in the zeitgeist leading up to the race. And it's not like there's anything that goes on that you can really like use to inform you about like what it's gonna look like. You could look at like previous race data and things like this, but overall, the mood of the teams and the drivers and like what they're talking about with upgrades and stuff, that does tend to be just like what the pre-weeks are about, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, I think all worthwhile stuff.
definitely. But looking at Baku, one surprising to me at least little factoid is that there's no F1 driver has won Baku twice. So it's been around since 2016. And so Rosberg won in 2016, Ricardo in 17, Hamilton 18, Bottas 19, Perez in 2021, and then Verstappen 2022. So we have an opportunity for a few guys up there to potentially repeat, but also if we want to keep that going, then we've got to start going down the list. And I think Fernando is on deck there for being the furthest towards the top of the grid that has not won it. If we need to keep that streak going.
So even in his previous years, he didn't win it.
So I think it's only been around since 2016. So this race. So it's
Oh.
there have only been 6 races there as far as I can tell.
Oh, that's great. Whoa. Okay, cool. So we're
Yeah.
kind of seeing history in the making.
Yeah, so first Grand Prix was
Whoa.
in 2016. So
Damn. Okay, good call. Good call.
and yeah, so six different winners in the 6 races. There was no race there in 2020 due to COVID. So yeah, well maybe we'll see that continue. Have a new winner out there, but that kind of leaves it up to I guess Alonso, maybe George Russell, maybe Lance Stroll to sneak in there and take that win if we're not looking at any of those other 5 guys on the grid.
Yeah, I think Lance would be a really exciting W there.
That'd be cool. I mean, has Lance? He hasn't won a race yet, has he?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool to see him get that race win. Also, I think that in the current era of F1, Fernando would be the only driver over 40 maybe to get a race win.
Whoa.
I mean, since probably like the 80s maybe, because I think before that there were some old heads driving sometimes.
Gotcha.
So I think that's in the like new age era of F1. But looking at the race this weekend, so we have a new F1 sprint format that's going to be going on. So there's going to be a practice session that's going to happen or I guess it's Friday morning. And then they'll have qualifying for the race.
Mm-hmm.
Then on Saturday morning, they're going to have a sprint shootout qualifying, which means
Mm-hmm.
they're going to do 12-minute Q1, 10-minute Q2, and 8-minute Q3, where Q1 and Q2 have to be on the medium tires, and Q3 has to be on the soft tires. So
Gotcha.
it's going to be a little bit different. And then, of course, we'll have the sprint race little while after the sprint shootout. That will be 9:30 Eastern time on Saturday, and then the race Sunday morning, bright and early, 7 a.m.
That's a pretty packed format, I would say. I think what may be interesting your because the sprint doesn't inform the race, I think we may see some different strategies than we've seen with them previously. I don't know. I don't know exactly what way the teams are gonna lean, but it seems like, excuse me, it seems like there's a possibility for teams to play more for the sprint's sake and not like protect their race.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to inform each other, and the sprint in and of itself is worth points on the year. I think that could create some interesting strategies.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think also the interesting thing with the sprint shootout and everything will be it allows. So, for instance, at Australia, we had Logan Sargent not be able to put in a proper lap for his qualifying. He had some great starts, some great Sector 1, Sector 2 times that ended up with him fumbling it going into the third sector and everything. I think this allows for, during the regular qualifying, some of these younger drivers, we have a number of them on the grid, to put in some kind of just good lap times, maybe not quite pushing it to the edges to try and secure a solid spot in their race start, but maybe being a little riskier and really sending it in this sprint shootout to try and snag what points they can in the sprint race and try and get maybe some better positions there. So it's interesting because we're gonna have a lot more like high execution required parts this weekend. You have one practice session. These rookies and young drivers who have had very little experience at Baku are gonna not get a ton more practice time before it's like everything counts. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, the difference between, that first qualifying and then the sprint shootout, and also like the progression of the young drivers throughout the weekend and seeing how they perform with this this format.
Yeah, and even the veteran drivers who are used to, having things being very regimented in one way. It sounds like a very active weekend for them, a lot of moving parts. So, yeah, even for them, it could be a bit of a struggle. Maybe not with like track data, I would call it, but with a weekend flow type thing. Maybe they're used to this kind of pace, and it's going to be, this kind of, an increased pace, and that could throw off their groove as well. So it'll just be interesting to see just how it affects things in general, being the first of its kind.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we may see a bit is teams splitting their driver strategies in FP1. Because you do want to get that long run data as much as possible in that hour time, but you also need to see kind of how the tires are working and how the feel is on those other tires during the session as well. So it's going to be interesting to see that, because there's a lot of data that these teams want to gather that they probably won't be able to get everything they want during just one hour session.
Of course, but there's something where it's like, all right, so that's like adaptability and malleability. How much how much can you put together with so little? And it's going to be about teams doing more with less. And I think that's just like a Monaco or a Spa. It's going to create a unique challenge for the teams to overcome. And that, like what you're talking about, is like doing long runs and then the like short run type pace, quality lap type pace. That's gonna be really exciting, and seeing how teams go about that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it, and I mean, it's exciting that everything practically through the entire weekend is like important. There's nothing that you're just
Right.
like, I don't need to watch all of FP2, FP3. I'll just see what the timings are looking like and all.
Mm-hmm.
So it does. It changes the energy of everything through the weekend. And I don't know what F1 is necessarily going for, but maybe that is the target for the viewership perspective, to just have a lot of things that are more exciting to tune into.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, I mean, I'll be one of those who are watching pretty much everything through the weekend. So I'm looking forward to that this weekend.
Yeah, at least seeing what it's all about, and yeah, obviously they're not afraid to like make changes and tweaks and change things. I
Yeah,
just said changes twice. Um, but yeah, if it doesn't work in this way, they'll have another thing to try, and whatever. So I'm here for the trial runs
yeah, it'll be fun to see.
for sure.
And who knows? Maybe they'll shift, like we've talked about, shift around week to week with the sprint races to test some different
Hmm.
things, figure out what seems to work best. Um, but yeah, just happy that F1 is back.
Agreed.
It's been too long.
Final thoughts though. How does it feel knowing that Max nor Sergio is going to win this weekend?
I'm just curious who it's going to be, man.
Right, right. Who gets selected?
And how Max and Checo end up befalling some horrid engine failure or something like that on the track, or what. I'm curious what takes him out.
Final lap. Max 1, Sergio 2,
Logan
George
Sargent.
Russell 3.
Logan
The
Sargent's
team
getting blue
orders.
flags and slams into all of them.
Bro, you went a completely different direction. I was gonna say Red Bull gets the team orders to just slam on the brakes on the pit straight to give the dub to George Russell, and they just like stop like right before the line and then take 2-3.
Okay, that's pretty good too.
Yeah. Where like they're going to win it, and then they just like hand it to keep the Baku dream alive
For the memes.
for the memes, dude. Hell yeah! I think oh shit, I couldn't find his name quickly enough. Shia LaBeouf would be proud,
Yes, don't let your dreams be dreams, man.
dude. There's power in that idea.
There. Oh, absolutely.
Don't fuck around. Do it today.
Yes.
Hmm.
Just do it. But yeah, I'm excited for the F1 race this weekend. Also looking forward to MSI. A couple of things that are going to be a little sad, or one main thing that I'm a little bummed out about. But Dash is not going to be at MSI. He was not invited to be a part of the analyst desk or broadcast or hosting. And I believe Shocks is going to be the host on the desk throughout
Hmm.
MSI, which, I mean, hey, Shocks is great. I enjoy like her hosting and everything, but I'm just surprised that they don't have both of them like they kind of have done over the past few years and different events. They usually have the two of them kind of alternating, taking turns, working together and whatnot. So
Yeah, I would be curious to know why, like if there was a like specific reason. It could be as simple as just like a scheduling issue. I don't know like what's been said like on their social medias or whatever. But yeah, it just sounds like a tough problem for these showrunners where they probably have a lot of great talent available and
Oh
you only
yeah,
have so many like on-air slots and that is likely as tough for it is for viewers. It's probably a pretty tough choice for like the hosting team as well,
oh yeah,
to like figure out like who gets cut. Like nobody wants to make that choice.
right.
But from that perspective, like nobody wants to be the guy that is cut too. From your like to and I say this to say to your point is like Dash is an incredible host and has been for so long, that yeah, it is unfortunate for such a capstone tournament. I mean, obviously one of two a year that we get, that he doesn't get to be a part of that is kind of a shame.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it's a tough decision that they have to come down to with all of that and like splitting time. There's cost components and everything with that as well.
Hmm.
And I and so Dash he tweeted out that he said he's devastated, but he is wishing the team the best in delivering a great show. Just the normal kind spirited guy. But
Sure.
Shocks replied to that, and said that she wished that they could have shared the desk. It seems like the optimal way to do it, but I guess it's probably between costs and other different things like yeah, they sometimes have to make decisions that aren't the happiest, but a bummer because I enjoy watching Dash on the desk. He is one of the people who make that actually like worthwhile watching for me.
Hmm.
Shocks is another one, so I'll still like of course be tuning in because she does an awesome job too. But yeah, I was surprised. I feel like I've just like been so used to him being kind of one of the main hosts of any major tournament for years now that I'm just like, oh yeah, Dash will be there. I'll like tune in for a little bit of that and the segments before the games and everything. So just a bit odd.
One thing I think that is going to be a big boon to the tournament, though, this year is best of three play-in stage, and then
Yes.
on to best of fives all throughout the bracket stage. Nothing but best of fives the whole time, and then with the best of threes in the play-in stages. I feel like this is finally a format that is like worth talking about, worth being interested in.
Yep.
The double elimination, there's losers brackets for the play-ins, and then there's a whole losers bracket for the bracket stage. Like, dude, tell me what is more exciting than getting the full possible amount of games.
Well, technically, no. The I think it looks like a great format. The only thing that I'd honestly like love to see would be having a little bit of just more games. Like
Sure.
this is a great format. I think the only thing that would boost it for me is even if you play a single round robin where each of the teams plays the other three teams in their group once. That's
Sure.
that's what 4 games or something. Like there's not a lot of games, or I don't know how many games that is. Um, I guess it's like 7 games or 8 games or something per group that you would get just a little bit more to maybe warm teams up, but they're getting their scrim time, they're getting their like all of that going too. So I'm sure the teams would be ready. It would just be interesting to see, I guess, if even if they get 1v1 or one round best like
One round robin where
yes,
each team plays like three games.
right. Then you could have some more interesting wrinkles in the best of matches. But that's all. Like otherwise, like you said, they have a losers bracket. It's best of 3 for the play-ins. Then they move to best of 5s for the second stage of the tournament and everything. Like, I really, me wanting a few more games is like just enjoying the tournament and the format and everything. Like, that's just more League of Legends is a good thing in my mind. So
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like in practice though, like that would just be DFM losing 3 times or like GAN losing 3 times or whatever. Because like
well,
we've already seen that group stage before. We saw it last year, the year
yeah.
before, where there's like
But then DFM can lose 3 times and then lose 2 more in a best of 3. And so then they get
sure,
5 games instead of
sure.
just getting 2-0'd by PSG and it being done in 2 games.
How demoralized do you want your teams?
Yeah.
I think is the question.
Do you
But
want
no,
to know
I
2 or no 5? Come on.
see. Yeah, O2 is much more reasonable, I think, and probably less heartbreaking for the team.
Yeah, I would imagine that it would be a little bit better for
But
morale.
I can sympathize with wanting just more games. But yeah, overall, man, I'm super excited for this. Probably more than I've been for like any MSI previously, without really realizing it. Just having Oh man, just having more games like in those series is gonna be really fun. I'm just super looking forward to it.
Yeah, the one thing that I wanted to talk about though, since it happened over this past week, was the LEC and EMEA a little bit.
Hmm.
And so I didn't get to watch through all of the games. I watched through a little bit, but just in terms of how the LEC slots worked out for MSI. So the number 1 team from the spring playoffs was seeded in as the number 1 EMEA LEC squad. The second squad was the team who had won the winter playoffs in the LEC and EMEA. So
Gotcha.
so G2, who won in winter but then got beat out in a 3-2 by the eventual winners of the spring playoffs for LEC. They finished 4th in the spring and are going to MSI, where BDS, who 3-0'd Vitality, took Mad to 5 games in the finals and everything, is just unfortunately going to be sitting at home. That's something I didn't realize last week, where I was thinking like, oh, like the 1 and 2 teams from this playoffs are going to go to MSI. We'll see. We'll get to see BDS after they 3-0'd Vitality. I was like, oh, BDS is in there. Like, we'll get to see Crowny and Nuke and all on the international stage, and they get 3-2 in the finals and miss out because of the LEC's new format that they went to with 3 splits this year. So,
Hmm.
kind of a
Well,
bummer.
if you're gonna split it into 3, you gotta give like a reward for winning the first one. It
Oh
just
yeah,
sucks that the runner up here gets kind of shafted.
right.
And then like I'm curious to see what that does for if they end up behind pace in their third split, where then the reward is like a world's birth, right? So yeah, I'd be curious to see what the points end up being like, and if this is like really detrimental to second place in spring.
Yeah, because I mean, BDS
Because that's not
ended.
cool.
Yeah, like BDS was 7th in the winter playoffs. Like they got 2-1 by G2 in
Hmm.
their first round. Then they got 2-1'd by Astralis in their losers bracket matchup. And so they like finished way down. And then to make the run that they did to the finals and everything, it's just a bummer. It's recency bias. Like you said, there has to be a reward for that first winter group's position and everything. It's definitely funky to see it work out that way, as opposed to, I'm just so used to the championship points thing. Like, say, okay, G2 gets X amount of championship points for that, and then BDS got X amount. Like, it may still work out the same way, but it always seems weird to me to give... I mean, it can happen by championship points too. It's always weird to me that the team that's not necessarily performing the best at the time right before the tournament still has a shot to get in through these other methods. Like, I just, in my brain, it makes sense to send the teams that are performing the best at the time right before the tournament go to the tournament. Like, that's kind of like how I make sense of it, because there have been times where teams have done great, even when it was a 2-split format, where they've done super well in the spring split, not that well in the second split, but they had enough championship points to get that third slot or whatever for Worlds. And so in this position, it's just it's funky seeing the first and fourth place team from this split in the LEC going on to be the MSI representatives.
Yeah, and in some ways, like, you're selecting for what teams are representative over the course of play that we've had so far, where if you had like one or two more international tournaments where you could get like seeded in different ways, then that would satisfy that itch of yours where you want it to be like, oh no, just the best teams at the time should be at that tournament. And that like kind of makes sense to me, because you might end up just finding like an underperforming G2 where it's like, oh, they weren't worth their salt. Like BDS at the time was actually better. So yeah, I definitely, I see what you're saying, man.
Or the old school format where it was like just the top team from each region goes. Like, there were no second teams at MSI.
Right. Right. Back when it was Team Ice and Team Fire.
Yeah, the all-star matchups. But I think it's easier to set it up the way that LEC did it this way when there are more teams that are being invited. So for like a Worlds event, larger event where you get two teams to the group stage automatically and one team in the play-in or whatever, there's a little more wiggle room. But I was very impressed by this BDS squad, so I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing them go on to play internationally at Worlds. But the two teams that we do have from the LEC are teams that have players with experience on the international stage, which is not a bad thing either for G2. It's Caps, Hansama, Mickey X, Broken Blade, and Yike. So Yike, I think, is the only one without international experience there.
Gotcha.
From the Mad Lions squad, I mean, it's Niski, Karzi, Hillsong, Elyoya, and then Chasey. And Chasey is the only one there that I don't think has international experience.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, both teams are sending some solid rosters as long as they're performing well and everything. So it'll still be a great tournament. I'm not pissed at anyone for G2 being in. I just was excited to potentially see BDS. And after playing a really solid series against Mad Lions and just coming out just on the bottom there, it caught me off guard that they weren't going. I forgot that the LEC had changed their format. So
right. Yeah, so there was a lot on the line for that matchup. Damn.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it was a pretty rough way to lose the last two games in that best of five to Mad Lions. They go up 2-1, lose game four in 23 minutes and 52 seconds, with a 15-5 kill score. And then game five, they lose in 28 minutes in a 14-0 score.
Brutal.
So impressive way to wrap that out from Mad Lions and to come back, but for the and it was
Damn.
the reverse sweep. Niski took that C9 reverse sweep energy and ran
There
with
you
it.
go.
So you can't beat the memes. Sorry, BDS.
Damn, dude. Just unplay those games and everything will be fine.
Yep.
Yo, BDS, unplay this, dude. Unplay that series, man.
BDS up 2-0. Congratulations on making it to MSI.
Right. There you go.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to the tournament. We've got all the teams solidified, but just to run through them, we have straight to the bracket stage. We have Gen G, JD Gaming, Mad Lions, Cloud9, and T1. And then in the play-in stage, we'll see Billy Gaming, G2 Esports, Golden Guardians, PSG Talon, GAM Esports, Detonation Focus Me, Loud, and Movistar R7. So I think Movistar R7 has not, I don't think, been to international competition previously, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And based on looking at their lineup, there are not any names that I recognize there either. So I think that should be a full new team. Brazil with Loud still has Tinones coming in the mid lane, so he's hanging in there. DFM from Japan is a very similar lineup as well. Arya, Udapon, Steel, all still there. So a lot of faces we've seen before, but there will be plenty of new people as well. I think PSG Talon's almost entire roster is different, and for them to change everything up and still make it to international competition is pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, that's really strong. I'm looking forward to seeing DFM play. They always bring some exciting matches out of Japan.
Yeah, so I picking on them and saying they were going to go 0-2 or 0-5 is not potentially correct, but yeah, looking forward to seeing how they do. But I think that wraps up most of the League of Legends talk. I don't know if you had any other points that you wanted to hit before moving along.
No, not really. I think just the main topics were the format changes and just the, I think, positive things that will bring. But yeah, that's kind of it. That starts next Tuesday, pretty early, so we may be able to bring some first impressions coming in. Or first impressions looking ahead to the bracket stage come Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's exciting League of Legends, exciting F1. We had some exciting CSGO. Why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about watching some of the IEM Rio here?
So I'm just gonna bother you with the kind of like the final stages. The groups were pretty exciting overall. I thought the most interesting thing to bring out of the groups was Heroic, the team that ends up going second, starts down in the losers bracket. They lost to Big 2-1 after their win against Nine, so that drops them down into the losers bracket. So they have to win their way through there to get back up to actually tournament winning contention. So I thought that was pretty cool. But once you get into the playoff stages, I think that's where it gets a little more exciting. Heroic beats Furia in a 2-1, which again for Furia is a repeat of Rio 2022. fucking same thing happens on. So this is main stage now. This is like big arena, everybody's packed house, right? So this is Brazil, like Furia's home team advantage. Heroic just knocks them down, and like the energy just dwindles so much, and it's just really unfortunate for Furia. Then the Heroic versus Navi semifinal, bro, you be sweating if you were a Navi fan. So you're 15-14 T side, you're Navi, you're Perfecto, you're placed in a pre-plant. There's like 6 seconds on the clock. You have a heroic member up in heaven, like knowing exactly that you're looking to plant. Perfecto runs into, we're on overpass. He runs onto, I'm not sure which side it is, but the one that has the column in the middle. He runs to the corner, tries to plant, but it's out of range. You literally cannot plant there. So he has to readjust and try and stick the plant, but by this time he's out of time and he just has to like look for the kill. But that puts it to overtime now. That's 15-15. Like Navi was looking to just seal it up right there. 15-15. It goes to triple overtime, my guy. Navi always ahead, always ahead, but Heroic continually just pushes it to the next overtime and the next overtime until finally they crack Navi, get the advantage in rounds, and then they win it. And then bro, their second map, slaughter. I think the score was like 16 to like 5, I want to guess it was.
16-9, but it was so Overpass was Heroic's pick and
Yes.
Ancient was Navi's pick, and they
Yes.
got smoked.
Smoked. And bro, the look on Perfecto's face round after round after round that Heroic kept like clawing their way back in, like it was all his fault. It was all his fault, and it was written all over his face. It was brutal, man. It was really bad. And like you have Cadian on the other side. Like this guy is the most exciting player to watch from an in-game leader perspective. He's hyping everybody up. He's fucking screaming. He's getting like livid, bro, at like how close they are to winning. So that was just in that like map one, that overtime, that final round was some crazy CS:GO to watch.
Well, and
Heroic,
that's
go ahead.
wild too. That blows my mind that a player tried to plant at a spot that they can't plant. Like
I know.
these guys have played these maps so many times. They go into customs and to see that stuff. Like I guarantee there are guys that go into a custom with no one on the map and just run with the bomb to the different sites and just go, oh, I can plant here. Oh, I can plant here. Oh, I can plant here. And just go around and find that zone and like where the edges and everything are. For him to, that would be a pretty mind shattering, mind breaking kind of mistake to make. I can understand why it was a struggle after that.
Oh yeah, dude. It was heartbreaking. You just kind of knew, yeah, it may take a little bit, but Heroic was likely going to come out on top there. So that's Navi knocked out of the tournament. Now the next semifinal, Vitality versus Cloud9. Cloud9 is up. I think they're up map one. They're map two on Vertigo. I think the score line was like 12-3 Cloud9. They're about to lock it up. And then Dupree on Vitality just found his mouse. He woke up. He came to the arena, whatever it was. Round after round, this guy just kept putting up the kills and finding like some insane two pieces, a bunch of multi kills. Like he was going rampant, and they held the team overall holds Cloud9 to 12 rounds in that second map on the second half. I forget what the final score was. I think they won 16-14.
So it was Cloud9 was 12-3 on their first
Yep.
half. Vitality went 12-3 on the second half to bring it to a 15-15 tie, and then in the tiebreaker Vitality went 4-1.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
so
it
they
was
did
a
go to
nine,
OT.
yeah. So 1916 overtime.
Wild, but that was crazy because this was a Cloud9 that was
They
looking
were
to
on it. I was texting you
yes.
about it. I was like, I thought we were gonna see just one of the biggest blowouts in that round that we had seen, in a 2-0 from Cloud9 there. It
Hmm.
was it was wild. I'm not like, I know some maps are like T side heavy or CT heavy, but they just looked so comfortable and clean. Like, I couldn't imagine them not picking up a couple of rounds that they needed on that other half. So
Sure. Right. It feels inevitable in that scenario. And then, so Vitality wins map two, and then they're able to bring it back on map three, get themselves to the grand final. And man, it was just their whole team, like just getting the kills, getting the like I'm not that eloquent in talking about Counter Strike, but yeah, it was just some fun series to watch. It was very exciting. Me and Sarah were getting hype, and then the grand final, Vitality versus Heroic. Unfortunately, this is the third time in a row Heroic gets to a grand final of an IEM major. First, they fall to their logo is a dog. It doesn't matter though. But yeah, 2-0'd by Vitality, and they were just unstoppable here. It was not the most exciting grand final. I actually think the climax of the tournament was those two semis. They were just fucking crazy.
yeah, I mean, very very good semifinals, but yeah, the finals was, I watched through the highlights, and it was just a highlight reel for the Vitality squad and their
Hmm.
players. I mean, especially like Zywoo, Dupree, and Apex all just were playing ridiculously well. Every player on Vitality in that finals was positive in their kill death. It was a really just impressive performance from like pistol rounds on. Like, the pistol rounds were ridiculous from Vitality. But yeah, definitely tough for Heroic to end up in that same spot again. The all Swedish, I believe, line, or all Danish, sorry, lineup that they have there. Swedish is the blue flag. They're the red and white.
Hmm.
So yeah, all Danish squad that just keeps finishing, like you said, the second, the last three big tournaments, and they have a couple firsts. They won two Blast premieres last year, but
Hmm.
but yeah, just not quite able to pull it out here at IEM Rio versus Vitality, who just played really impressively.
Dude, and like at each role, I think they you could look at each of the players and like talk about rounds that they had where they just like clutched up, they brought it back for their team,
Yeah.
they put their team in winning positions. And then from like a storyline perspective, here's a major where the cited best player in the world is on the team that wins the major. That is often good in the history of that player, where it continues to tell that story where like yeah, he's still winning,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. So I think for Zywoo, that's got to be yeah, just another notch in the belt, another reason why they say he is pretty strong in the game right now.
Yeah, and I mean, watching it, there's no doubt about it. He was popping off. But yeah, fun tournament. I know. I enjoy what I'm able to catch from
Sure.
CS:GO and everything. I know I'm not always right on the edge of my seat every event, but it's a fun game to watch. So a nice tournament for the weekend and some fun highlights to check out.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's Melbourne coming up yet this in this next couple of months. I believe Dallas is coming up soon as well. So just more CS:GO, more majors to be had. So that's all good stuff. I just want to talk a little bit about some Magic the Gathering that we've had this week, and then we can finish it out with the flavor of the week here. Pioneer was this weekend. I got a win. I went 1-2 on the night where previously
Nice.
I went 0-3, made some improvements, got some made some important swaps into the deck, added some more removal in. I found a copy of a card called Galvanic Iteration, red and a blue, instant speed. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. It also has flashback, so you can pay one a blue and a red and do that effect again. I had a similar card in that slot, and it just isn't as good. I saw Galvanic Iteration. It came up twice in the games that I played, and it was a house. It actually gave me advantage in the game. So I know, I understand why it's there. It lets you double up on removal spells, let you double up on some card draw spells. Super, super good. So that was fun to improve the deck, improve my standings. I thought that was just
Nice.
it doesn't get any better than that when you're just looking for progress, looking to learn.
Well, and getting that first win in the format in an official kind
Oh
of
yeah, baby.
play group and everything, that's big. That's that shows you've progressed. Like the first Pioneer Day at the card shop and everything, you were like, I feel like I have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And just in this short time, you came out and got a win already. That's awesome.
I saw so I'm really not convinced in my third matchup I played as well as I could have. It was a matchup that I've seen a bunch before, and I don't think I played as well. But looking back over it, I don't really know what I could have done different. So it was against mono white aggro. His list was kind of different than what I was used to.
Okay.
So I think there was some card choices that kind of threw me off a little bit. But that aside, one of the matchups I did play against was Spirits, White Blue Spirits. It's interacting at like instant flash speed, so they kind of just draw and pass, and then they'll cast things on your turn.
Okay.
Um, there were a couple of really important interaction moments there, but just overall learning about that deck was really cool. It's super interactive, really aggressive too. So that was cool. But just overall, really happy about the 1-2. And then again, Commander Night, get a 1-2. Came close to winning 2 games. Me and John were in the final position. He kind of had an ace in the hole, knocked me out. But game 3, I was able to seal up. And then my final thoughts here. Tomorrow will hopefully be our first Thursday night Magic, looking to get some spell table games in online with the Michigan gang in a
Nice.
more organized fashion. Where hoping to meet every Thursday. So I'm definitely gonna show up early, bright eyed and bushy tailed, and hopefully kind of make a good impression on the first night. Hopefully get a bunch of interest to just be able to jam games all the time. But I think
Nice.
good week for Magic. I've got the 1K coming up on Sunday, my brother. I'm so fucking stoked. The
It's a big
registration's
weekend,
up
man.
online. Dude, I know it's gonna be crazy. Registration's up online. We have to post our deck list. So that's kind of exciting. Because
Okay.
these two other times you haven't had to, so this is gonna be a little new, little different. But yeah, I'll definitely be excited to give you the post battle report next Wednesday.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah,
Um,
man.
but yeah, I guess that that rounds us out here to the flavor of the week. I'll
Start with
run
yours.
through mine quick, but for food, so we went to this food truck festival. We took Senna with us. We walked her down there. It's about 2 miles. Wandering around, it was mobbed. It was crazy. Every food we saw so many good food trucks. Every single one, 80 people deep in line. And
Wild.
we were like, for one, I was like, I am not going to be able to keep Senna preoccupied, standing in line, shifting like a couple feet forward every couple minutes or whatever. Like, that ain't gonna fly. So we're wandering. We went through everything trying to find something that wasn't just mobbed. And we'd find one and be like, oh, okay. And then we'd start following the line, and the line would like wrap around the back of the food truck where we couldn't see and just be like down the block. And we're
Brutal.
like, come on. So we ended up just popping into one of the restaurants downtown, and just they had an outdoor table that we didn't have to wait at all for. So we went to a food truck festival, didn't get any food truck festival food, but popped into a restaurant we haven't been at before. We got a pickle pizza to split between the four of us as a little appetizer, and then got some good food. But yeah, that pickle pizza, it was weird. It was just very unique. Dill pickles. It had some, I think it was, I think it was like pork butt or something like that, like thick bacon pieces on it and whatnot,
Ooh.
along with
Damn.
the pickle. So it was pretty solid, but definitely enjoyed it, even though it was not the goal when we headed downtown.
Dude, that's super silly, man. Just a whole bunch of people waiting in line, not a whole bunch of people eating.
Oh, it was crazy. And like even the
Yeah.
lines for like they had lines for pina coladas in a pineapple, like the pineapple's hollowed out and you get a few pineapple pieces mixed in and whatever. The line for that was like 2 blocks long. And
Wild.
I was like, I'm not standing in this line. Like I got sunburnt on the top of my head already. I'm like, it's barely spring and my thin hair is letting the sun through too much already. I'm like, if I had stood in one of those lines, it would have been miserable. Would
You'd be
not
a
have worked
lobster.
out. So yeah, I think we made the right call, but it was a bummer because there were lots of good looking food trucks that I would have loved to be able
course.
to meander through and actually, I don't know, order something from. But for my music this week, I just wanted to shout out an artist I've been checking out a little more. I found someone on TikTok saying that he reminded them of Mac Miller. I think I mentioned him a little while back when I was going through my TikTok music stuff, but Squid the Kid, Australian young rapper that's coming up, he's got some good sounding music. It's very
Nice.
like fun, energetic, bouncy, has like a style that I obviously enjoy if you're able to compare it to Mac Miller. So I've been jamming to him a little bit here and there this past week, just delving into his catalog a little more. But then for my visual medium this week, Colleen and I watched this jury duty show and went all the way, made it to through to the end of it. It was on, I think, Amazon Prime, but the gist of the show is there's one person who is a real person and everyone else in the show are actors, and so they're reacting to all of everything he does because they can't prepare or plan for it. It's like a interesting, pretty unique show, and so they go through this whole like fake trial and everything, and then reveal to him at the end that everyone else was an actor, and all the things that happened throughout the show were all just either contrived or like they had to kind of on the spot figure like responses and whatnot out.
Sure, it was like
So
emergent.
yes, so
Whoa.
very interesting show. I enjoyed it because it was all like very lighthearted in terms of like the way it ended. Like there was nothing that was when there are shows like this, something I get like secondhand uncomfortable pretty easily. So there was nothing that was like they were poking fun or really like messing with this guy in like a not cool way, being the
Mm-hmm.
only one on the outside. They kind of let it play out naturally and everything and just like watched and pivoted and whatnot based on what happened and what he did and how people reacted and everything. So a really interesting show overall. I would definitely recommend it.
Hell yeah. Okay. Jury duty. Yeah, we've obviously seen the commercials, but I appreciate the rec.
Yeah, I would check it out. But that's my flavor of the week for this week.
Nice. My visual medium here this week went back to an old staple, an old classic, the Japanese animation Akira. Watched that
Gotcha.
last night for the first time all the way through. I guess I got to like the bridge scene the first time I watched it.
Okay.
Where I guess it's Tetsuo that like runs into the kid, the helicopter comes, they like pick them up, and then everybody's left wondering like what the fuck? What's
Yeah.
going on here? That's where I'd gotten to the first time, finished it out last night, and holy shit, it is a wild ride. And knowing that each of those frames is like hand drawn and just how beautiful it is, like it fucks around with light in a really crazy way. The motorcycle headlights, the little rover, little flyer, little swamp what am I thinking of? Sewer, the little sewer flyer, that thing's crazy. Just so much beautiful just animation and drawing. The story though, I was just having like reflections of like all these other like things that are just like, oh, that was just Akira, wasn't it? Where like
Yep.
superpowered kid, like these kind of things. But yeah, it was beautiful, and I'm super happy to have watched it for the first time.
I haven't watched it all the way through. I had started it at one point and didn't make it very far. I think I was like going to sleep or something like that and threw it on.
Sure.
And it was like not. I want to actually go back and watch it, but it is. It's a classic, and like you said, like it was made in 1988. Everything's hand drawn. So looking back at that, and then of course comparing it to things after, I'm sure that's it's kind of funny to see.
Dude, and like it's fun to hit one of like the pillars of a medium and understand like okay, this is why people love this stuff, right? Because
Yeah.
there is beautiful work being done. So yeah, Akira was fucking sweet. My food here for the week, another staple, cilantro lime chicken. Me and Sarah cooked it up
Nice.
over the weekend. Just great sauce. You get something with rice, and you get some browned up chicken, and it's just a lovely time. And then my music here for the week, we were listening to Fleetwood Mac Rumors on the record player, and it's funny on the vinyl. There's a bunch of photos of the band on the back. There's like a little reel of like a couple of small shots, and then there's a big shot of the band all like standing. They were like candids basically, and it's a snapshot of like five or six people that are all in total emotional turmoil. Effectively, they all kind of fucking hate each other at the time that these photos were taken. So during the recording of Rumors, there was two members of the band were married. They had gotten divorced. So they were recording the album while working through their divorce proceedings. There was another, I believe it was yeah, just two other bandmates were like canoodling, but were not on good terms enough where anytime they like they would be arguing and just at each other's throats anytime they would be recording, and it would just be a pain. And then another set of like unfortunate circumstances going on all while recording this album, and just relationships just like crumbling apart, just falling apart.
That's such a
And
great album.
it's wonderful. And there is a subset of people that are going to put that very high on a list in
Yeah.
classic rock like reverence, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's amazing to see this like snapshot in time, and it rebounded my love for album art and album inserts, and like, do you get the lyrics, you get like producer, where it was recorded. Dude, it's just something about a snapshot in time, and seeing these people that are odds but have done something so beautiful. It's very juxtaposing and interesting.
Oh
So me
yeah.
and Sarah were talking about that and going through that, and it's just fun listening to some vinyl on a warm spring afternoon. But yeah, that's my flavor of the week here, sir.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, vinyl. I enjoy listening to vinyl and all that other good stuff that comes along with it. It it's always a treat getting to look through some of the extras that you have and
Hmm.
everything. It's like I take more time with an album that way as opposed to just being like, oh yeah, let me throw it on Spotify. Like
Right.
I'm just that it's more intentional. So it's
Big time.
very cool. But as always, the flavor of the week does bring us to the end of the episode. As always, we appreciate you guys taking the time to listen with us. We enjoy putting this out week after week. And you can find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter at Tall and Short of One, the number one. But we appreciate everyone tuning in and hearing us talk week after week.
Yeah. Tell your friends. New episodes every Thursday. You know where to find us. This has been another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Peace out.
See ya.